Chapter 16. Covering the school with our handiwork takes planning, since we don't want anybody catching us at it. We don't even try putting the signs up before classes start, on account of Addie and me getting stopped the day before. Instead, we each stick a bunch of them in our binders, along with a roll of tape. Then we all find a reason to be excused from one class or another, sneak the papers and tape out from under our shirts, and get those signs up faster than Miss Wyman changes moods. By some kind of miracle, not one of us gets caught. We think. By lunchtime, there are over 60 no-name signs running along the corridors of Paintbrush Falls Middle School. It's all everybody's talking about. Everybody, that is, but us. This is because the minute the skis opens his mouth to say something, Addie shushes him so hard he practically tosses the dessert he's just stolen from her back on her tray. "We can't talk about this here," Addie admonishes the three of us. "We have to keep a low profile." Her words make me think maybe she's going into her business exec mode, but it turns out she's got more on her mind than the no-name party. "So?" she asks the skis, leaning across the table and taking back the chocolate chip cookie he is trying to hide from her. "I took care of it," says the skis. He squeezes the words out of the corner of his mouth like a hitman. "Took care of what?" I ask. Skeezy eyes Addie with a should-I-spill-the-beans look. "Go ahead," Addie tells him. "They know anyway." "Gee, trying to figure out what you two are talking about is about as much fun as picking scabs," Joe gives, all sarcastic-like. "Tomorrow, let's all bring decoder rings and we can send each other secret messages." "Hardy har," goes the skis. Turning to Addie, he says, "I put a note in his locker that says, 'The person who likes you will be waiting by the flagpole at 3:15. Addie gets all bug eyes and says, "Does this mean I actually have to show up? What am I going to say? What if there are other kids around? How will he know it's me?" "Nobody hangs out by the flagpole. That's why I picked it. What you say is your business." "I never knew you to be at a loss for words," I point out to Addie. I'm expecting Joe to chime in something too, but he's looking down at his lunch like he's not even in the room with us anymore. Then all of a sudden he comes back to life and says, "Oh, guess what? I found a note in my locker." "I didn't put it there, I swear," says Skeezy. "I wasn't worried," Joe says. "I know who it's from." "Who?" asks Addie. "Kelsey. Who else would it be?" "Kelsey likes you?" "Uh-huh." "Oh." "What did the note say?" I ask, not really sure I want to hear all the lovey-dovey stuff Kelsey is writing to Joe. Joe pulls a neatly folded piece of paper out of his pocket and reads in his best going for an Oscar movie star voice. "I wish I could be like you. If I were, I would tell you how I feel." He refolds the paper and goes, "Barf." "That's it?" Addie asks. Joe nods. "She's a girl of few words. What am I going to do, you guys? I don't want to hurt her feelings, but Bobby, you like her. Why don't you ask her to go out with you?" "Oh, thanks," I say. Just like that, I'm going to go up to her and say, "Hi, I know you like my friend Joe and all, but will you go out with me? Let me remind you that you did smile at me for one time for 1/1,000,000th of a second, and oh, here's the major selling point. Joe doesn't like girls, and I do." Addie gets this serious look on her face. "You know, it's just possible that Kelsey does like you, Bobby. She could easily have mixed up your locker with Joe's. They're right next to each other." "Forget it," I say. "Yeah, you're probably right," Addie says. "She strikes me as the cautious type. She wouldn't make a mistake about something like that." "Here's what you should do, Jodan," goes the skis, picking chocolate chips out of a cookie. I look down at my tray. My dessert is missing. "You should cool it with her. You know, you've been real chummy with her lately. You don't mean nothing by it, but she's getting the wrong message. You know what I mean? You gotta not encourage her." "Gee," I say, "you should write an advice column for the Easel." That's the name of our school paper. Do not ask. "Dear Skeezy," Joe goes as the bell rings and we start picking up our trays whilst I snatch what's left of my cookie out of the skis' mitt. I am in love with this dynamite girl who sits next to me in social studies, but I don't dare tell her because I've got this real bad zit on the tip of my nose, and besides which I have BO and halitosis. Addie butts in. Whatever, goes Joe, scowling at her. Anyway, I cry myself to sleep every night because I am already 12 years old and I have never known love. I do not want to die an old maid, or whatever it's called if you're a guy. Please help me, O great wise one of the 7th grade. Sincerely yours, Zitface Zach. Skeezy clears his throat. Dear Zitface, find yourself a nice girl with zits and BO and bad breath. Believe me, they're out there. Good luck! From here, the conversation plummets as we start heaving truly gross, made-up letters at Skeezy, and he tosses back replies that are in such bad taste we have no choice but to make barf noises. When all of a sudden we stop talking altogether and get to listening with all our ears, because there's this sort of buzz going on around us. Everybody's saying, "Who put these signs up?" And some of the kids are quoting the words and laughing, but others are quoting them and saying stuff like, "I was called that in the 4th grade, and I really hated it." We listen to hear if anybody's figured out who put them up on the walls, and to our surprise, most of what we hear is conjecture that it's the school itself that's behind it. Nobody figures it has anything to do with the student council elections or the group formerly known as the Freedom Party. This is so cool, Joe says, and Addie shushes him, and Joe calls her Wendy, and she swats him, and he swats back, and Skeezy goes, "Girls!" And they both turn and swat him, and Mrs. DePaulo, who happens to be walking by just then with a sweater draped over her shoulder, says, "None of that now." And we all go, "It's okay, Mrs. DePaulo." By the end of the day, we are all agreeing that what's happening is pretty cool. The plan is that we will let the signs stay up one more day, and then on Thursday we'll hit the walls with posters for the no-name party. Right now, though, it's time for me to get to Awkworth and Ames, and I'm at my locker stuffing my backpack while Addie is chittering away behind me like a nervous bird, asking the time every 5 seconds because she's worried about timing her appearance at the flagpole just right, when all of a sudden Deshawn and Tawny are in our faces, and Deshawn is going, "Addie, I gotta talk with you." And at the same moment, Miss Wyman pops her head out of the door and calls out, "Miss Carl, a word with you, please." Panic takes over Addie's features like a rash. "Addie," Deshawn says, "I've been thinking." "Deshawn is out," Tawny goes, finishing the sentence for her. "Let me tell it," Deshawn says, to which Tawny rolls her eyeballs. "You're dropping out?" says Addie. "You can't drop out." "Who says I can't?" Deshawn gives back, looking like he's just been waiting for something to get angry about. "Tawny's right about you. She says you're just—" "What's Tawny got to do with this?" says Addie. "Can't you think for yourself, Deshawn?" "I am thinking for myself, and I don't want to run on your full ticket, okay? That's the bottom line, okay?" "Tell it," Tawny mutters, and she takes hold of Deshawn's elbow. "Let's go, Deshawn. Come on, we're out of here." Addie clicks her tongue and is about to say something else when Miss Wyman gives her a holler again, and Addie asks me the time again, and I tell her to get a watch, but I give her the time anyway, which is 5 minutes past 3, and she says, please go to the flagpole and tell Colin to wait." But I cannot do this on account of my job, and fortunately she does not ask Joe or Skeezy, on account of Miss Wyman is out in the hall now, advancing, and Addie is saying, "I'm coming, Miss Wyman, I'm coming." With one last look at us, she mouths, "Forum, 5:30, to which we all nod as she disappears into the ogre's lair. Skeezy turns to Joe and says, "Sorry." "About what?" "Fixing Addie up with Colin and all." "I told you it was okay," Joe goes. "Hey," says the Skeez, "I've got an idea. Maybe you should go and meet Colin at the flagpole." To which Joe says, "So funny I forgot to laugh."